Kate Hoey is one of the very few Labour MPs who actively campaigned for Britain to leave the European Union. She's a bit of a maverick. I'm all about, on this channel, trying to chat to people I don't necessarily agree with on lots of things, and Kate Hoey definitely is in that category. But I think this will genuinely be really interesting. This is a lovely little office, covered in kind of sporting photographs.
Yes.
This is one of your big passions, isn't it? You were sports minister.
I was sports minister. I was the first woman sports minister, which in those days was supposed to something, but it's nice to remember all the different events you went to. And
people don't know this, but you actually started off in the International Marxist group.
It was a choice between the International Marxist group and the International Socialists in those days. I knew more people in the IMG, and some of them were slightly better looking, and it was sort of one of those things where, you know, it's an experience, and it's why at the moment when people go on about, you know, momentum and Labour Party being taken over by Trotskyites, I always say I kind of know what a Trotskyite is, and I think most of the young people who've joined the party are certainly not Trotskyites.
No. Your political views, I think, are fascinating, but also to an outsider...
That's the first time I've heard them described as that.
Well, often perplexing, I'm not going to lie. I mean, would you describe yourself as a socialist?
Yes, I think I would. I don't feel any problem with the word socialist. I do have a problem with social democracy because I think that has been used to sort of water down things in the last number of years, and it was particularly through during the Blair years as well. We were always trying to be the same as the Conservatives rather than getting that difference, which obviously the current leadership is very much making that difference, and then the public will have a real choice.
I mean, I find that interesting because, I mean, originally you were seen very much in the Kinnock years as being on the right of the Labour Party.
It depends what you mean. You see, I find these terms so ridiculous these days, right and left. You must know people who would be portrayed as being right-wing on some issues and left-wing on other issues. I mean, I've always been a great supporter of trade unions. I've always stood up for trade union rights and workers' rights. I've always had a support for the underdog and the feeling that, you know, minorities are ignored and we have to defend them.
You have a diverse array of critics, almost uniquely within the Labour Party, because your views attract anger from both what we describe as, or opposition certainly, from the right of the Labour Party and the left of the Labour Party, supporting grammar schools, fox hunting, Brexit, of course. And the question that always comes up is, why is somebody like that in the Labour Party? So how would you answer that? I mean, what would you say to those people?
On fox hunting, I'm quite libertarian in a way, and I felt it was wrong to be banning something that actually, in my view, was not, and this will horrify people, I didn't really feel it was in the interest of the fox. I mean,
to be ripped apart by dogs.
No, but you see, you don't understand it.
I think what people don't like about it is the idea of human beings getting a vicarious thrill out of chasing. Yeah.
I was brought up on a farm that was organic, where every animal was outside. It was incredibly keen on animal welfare. But I'm interested in things like battery hens. I mean, I think it's shocking what we do on battery hens. If we'd put half the effort into changing some of our farming methods than to try to stop something that had gone on in the countryside for a very long time, I think we'd have done a lot better. So there's an awful lot of animal welfare issues, and I think you have to distinguish very much between animal welfare and animal rights, and I'm not an animal rightist.
Well, I don't believe in animal rights either because it's a human concept, but in terms of animal welfare, I agree, but it's not either or, is it? We should take on battery farming, you're absolutely right, but equally the idea of getting human beings deriving pleasure from chasing animals,
you don't really understand the hunt. Most people are out having a lovely ride, following the hunt. Very, very few people are there when the fox is actually killed, if it's killed. People somehow have this idea that a fox dies in a nice hospice somewhere when it gets old and dead and that somebody's looking after.
No,
there is a sort of idyllic idea about foxes and how they, actually mostly the foxes that are killed are the ones that are pretty old and ready to die.
Grammar schools. So that's something which, again, in the Labour Party is an article of faith, that you don't support selection at the age of 11, you support comprehensive education. Look at, for example, Kent, which still uses selection. All the evidence shows that in a place like Kent, the outcomes for poorer children are worse than they are in areas where there isn't any selection. Being somebody who's an egalitarian, how is that compatible?
What's happening now is because there are so few grammar schools, organised parents now will even move to get into those catchment areas. I mean, the argument would be that if there were more grammar schools, that wouldn't happen. And I'm not saying that, we should be creating grammar schools. I'm not suggesting Labour policy changes. I just find the whole almost vitriolic attitude to grammar schools that is taken I agree with choice in education. I think we've got different types of schools now. I think there's nothing wrong with that, provided there's still a mechanism for local people to have a say in them. And it does worry me slightly that academies now, some of them have become very, very remote, and local people can't get any say in what's happening.
There's very little accountability to local.
But at the same time, we have specialist sports schools and specialist music schools. And is there a problem with someone who's really, really academic being able to be helped too? Grammar schools, again, it's one of these sort of totems that the Labour Party almost makes you sign up in blood before you be allowed to join. And I'm not prescriptive like that. I think we should be a lot more tolerant, provided it's not actually affecting other people.
Brexit.
You must get fed up talking about Brexit.
We're all fed up talking about Brexit, Kate, and that's all we're going to be talking about for the next 15 years. You're aware of that, aren't you? Are you bored of Brexit? I'm bored of Brexit.
No, I'm not. I'm bored of negativity. Okay.
You were one of the very few Labour MPs who supported Brexit. Very few. I suppose people like myself said we need to remain and reform, and actually this whole campaign is really about scapegoating immigrants. Do you really think...
Do you really believe that?
Yeah, well, that the official Leave campaign's around an anti-immigration
No, do you
campaign.
really believe that is the big thing about the EU to do with immigration?
I think it was what the referendum campaign was
I think
about.
Freedom of movement is an issue, and Labour has changed its policy on freedom of movement now. We recognise that it hasn't done working class people and people in low paid jobs any good, really. My fundamental reason for being a Leaver, power was moving further and further away from people. Unelected people in the European Union were making decisions about our country. David Cameron, I think, probably tried to get some reform. He got absolutely nothing. It's not an organisation that can live with reform, because its sole aim is to bring about a kind of project of a united Europe, a federal Europe.
Why is it places, often with the most acute social problems and with the most immigrants, voted to remain, whilst the place where I'm from, which also has many social problems and lots of poverty, but very few immigrants voted to leave? I
think London is different. There is no doubt about it. London
Manchester? Birmingham?
Liverpool? Big urban cities. Because there are more resources going into London, and there is a feeling that London always is in the news, it's getting things, it's, transport-wise, it's done very, very well. A lot of people felt that this was their opportunity to really show the powers that be, because remember, the whole establishment, even you, the whole establishment...
Why am I the establishment? You're not the establishment. What's the difference?
Because I was wanting to change things.
I want to change things
You were
too.
wanting to keep us in the EU under a system that was
change
not
the
good.
EU and also transform British society.
The crucial thing was that everybody was united. All these very famous experts all over the place wanting us to stay in. And I think a lot of people thought, hang on, this is not what I think about the EU. A lot of older people, and they get criticised for voting to leave. A lot of those people were people who voted to stay in 2 years after we originally went in, back in the 70s. They were told this is just a sort of trading arrangement, and they were duped. They were lied to, really. The night I knew that we were going to win, I did a big rally up in Gateshead, and a lot of them, they were Labour, but they hadn't voted. And so many people came out and voted that had never voted before. And I think that was a huge... And our task in Labour now is not to lose those people again, because I think they did vote for the manifesto and for the commitments that were made by Jeremy on, leave the customs union in a single market, but try and keep as much of the benefits of that as possible. If we renege on that, we're in trouble.
Do you think there were certain anti-Brexit Labour MPs who, I'm sure in good faith, think Brexit is a terrible thing, but also think it's quite convenient to undermine the Labour leadership?
I was one of the 42 members of Parliament who refused to vote for no confidence in Jeremy. Absolutely ridiculous at the time. Some of the leaders of that campaign to get Jeremy out are the strongest supporters of not having Brexit. And I think that some of them have put their energies into stopping Brexit, and I think they do see it as an anti-Jeremy thing. He's trying to keep the party united, and I support him in that. And I think it is difficult for him because he has all these different groups campaigning and arguing for different things to do with the EU. So far, I think he's handled it handled it actually very well.
Millions of Leave voters voted for many, many different reasons.
Presumably Remainers voted for very different reasons too?
They did, of course. My reasons for voting Remain were not the same as, say, I don't know, Peter Mandelson. But nonetheless, if we look
that's good.
Yeah, but if you look at the Leave campaigns, the official Leave campaigns, they ran overtly on the issue of immigration. This whipped up, did it not? As sort of racism and xenophobia, that the tiny minority of violent racists who do exist in this country felt legitimised and hate crimes increased. And does that not, you're a Leaver, do you not look back and think that was the wrong tone for those campaigns to
I mean, I had criticisms of all the Leave campaigns.
But you did campaign with Nigel Farage, and a lot of people within the Labour Party, they detest his politics more than anyone in this country. I mean, do you look back and think, I shouldn't have really campaigned?
No, I mean, we did rallies with all sorts of party politics. I mean, I was on the platform with George Galloway, is that just as bad?
Is that to boast about?
No, but I'm saying that, in a referendum campaign, unlike a general election, you do work with people who've got different views. I mean, that was very much a Fishing for Leave initiative to bring these fishing boats up, and I had agreed that I would go on the boat. Nigel was on the boat. I mean, it would be completely hypocritical. Absolutely ridiculous for me not to have been there, and what am I going to hide myself in the loo so that I don't get a picture taken?
Kind of avoid campaigning alongside him. I don't know. You don't have to have a picture with him.
Well, this will annoy you, but I really don't think Nigel Farage is a racist, and I think we use the word racist far, far, far too easily these days.
It whips up anti-immigrant scapegoating. The breaking point poster, I think, was the lowest point of the entire campaign.
I condemned that. I mean, I thought that it was. Apart from anything else, it wasn't even EU. People in. I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous.
In terms of the boss, £350 million to the NHS, that was a lie.
But it didn't actually say. Come on. It didn't actually say it. What I read into it is we will, without doubt, no matter what happens, have £10 billion that at the moment just simply goes to the EU and we get nothing back.
But that's not true, is it? Because then we get a rebate and then we get, for example, money that we'd have to spend anyway on various projects which we go through the EU.
Without doubt, there will be money that we will get back. We will not have to spend on the EU. And I think what that was saying, probably in not a very sensible, not a very clever way, was, the health service will be one of those areas that we would want to put extra money into.
Since the vote, wages have gone down, and many of the people who voted Leave, they're now already worse off. So do you really think, given the changes in our trading relationship with the biggest single market on earth, which is just over there, are we really going to be better off, do you think?
I think long term, definitely we will be. But of course, it's not just about economics either. I mean, it is about feeling that our country has able to take, I hate using it because it wasn't my slogan, take back control, but we need to be clear that when people vote for us, we can carry out manifestos, and we can do that without any outside group of people, unelected, telling us we can't do it. It's not going to be easy in the first years, and it's certainly not been easy even getting there. But long term, I think, just like we look back now and say the euro was a disaster, would have been a disaster, thank goodness we didn't join it, I think we will look back and say, thank goodness the people of the United Kingdom on June the 23rd voted to leave.
See, she's actually really interesting. Now, I bet lots of you didn't agree with her on lots of that. I certainly didn't. Some of you, knowing some of the subscribers, definitely did agree with her. I bet you like that. You're part of the establishment jibe. As ever, leave your comments. We've got lots of videos. You can click on them, the interviews we've done. As ever, subscribe. I'll see you next time.